On to your topic.
Well, it was interesting. You actually were the one that brought this up, and I was so excited to jump on it. You very brilliantly called it, I believe you called it the vinyl trap. And it's something that I have been, silently ranting about
Yeah.
for
As a fan.
as an avid music listener and fan
Yeah.
and pop culture archivist. There is this paradox that is happening with vinyl in particular in the music space that has reached a bit of a conflict point. And it's the realization that vinyl right now is really our last standing bastion of thriving physical media. And record labels understand this. According to the IRA, or the RIAA rather, vinyl has outsold CDs consistently since every year since 2022. In the past year, there's been like a 9.5% jump in vinyl sales. So now more and more we're seeing vinyl become a regular part of an album rollout. And typically it is something that is offered in pre-sale, just like any other physical media. So sounds great. Like if you are a budding vinyl collector like I am, I've been, collecting vinyl for the past 2 years. Amazing. Now more and more artists are releasing their work on vinyl. This proves very fortuitous for us, right? Problem with that is it is often offered as a pre-sale entity of a rollout, usually like a month before you see the album actually hit the digital sphere. And while that usually wouldn't like ring any bells, it does when you recognize exactly how vinyls are made and also how artists work. And what you realize is that the vinyl trap is where the realities of fandom behavior, artistry, record sales, and the realities of physical media all conflict. Because when you purchase a pre-sale item, like let's say, like, and I'm talking like your favorite artist, there are a few artists in like my library that I'm not going to think about it. I'm just going to buy, unfortunately. Like I'm a sheep in certain areas. Like if Cardi B, Beyonce, BTS, Zayn, Dua Lipa, if those five are releasing anything and they say like, hey, do you want to buy this thing in connection with this album? Sight unseen, I'm probably going to buy it, especially if it's a vinyl. When you buy a vinyl, you're not considering that a vinyl, any run of a vinyl can take up to between 8 to 14 weeks to print. Meaning, and that's like a little over 3 months. And that's not a problem that's going away anytime soon, because right now we have this current demand for vinyl that totally outsizes the number of publishers that are available to print these things. So printing vinyls takes a long time. 8 to 14 weeks. That means that they're going to get a version of the album at that time. That does not necessarily mean it's going to be the completed version. That just means that is the version that was available in that moment. And by the time the album rolls out, because as we know, creatives are famously known for loving the first version of whatever they create.
Yeah.
By that time, they will tweaked and poked and prodded all the way up until maybe even half an hour before an album is set to drop, because the digital sphere has made that possible. All album releases are now files that come from basic feeds that go out to your Spotify's and your Apple Musics and what have you. So what that means is that this physical media that you have, that again is very important when it comes to our understanding of pop culture and our understanding and how we archive pop culture. This physical media has not even arrived to your door yet. It usually arrives like a day or two after the album drops, is already outdated. It already has probably a different version of a few different songs, if the song even makes it to the actual vinyl itself. I believe Charlie XCS had a version of this where there was like one of the most popular songs amongst critics hadn't even made it to the vinyl yet.
I think part of what I was reading from this and what is standing out from you talking about it as an actual fan and like buyer of vinyls
Yeah,
is that it's basically you're punishing your most hardcore fans for buying the first thing that you want them to
exactly.
and not repaying them in any way. right? Like the examples given in this article were Charlie XCX, Olivia Rodrigo, Ray, The Weeknd, Beyonce, right? They sell, and then obviously Taylor Swift, right? Who like comes out with the,
Taylor
you
Swift.
know, 7 different versions of the first run, right? Which is kind of wild to think about now, because now I'm realizing, okay, so those are just the first run. And then you have the ones that come out later. And part of it, you know, what I see is that like your hardcore fans, you incentivize them to buy that first press run so that you get those sales, and, you know, they show you that they care and they love you. But then when the next version comes out, there's nothing there to incentivize them to purchase it again. You're just expecting them to purchase it again so that they buy like the full thing, right? I think like we've talked about Taylor Swift, you know, doing this, right? Coming out with like more versions. And like that's just been with the digital album. But the fact that like with vinyl, it's like you're paying $30 to $50 per like vinyl, and then you're not even getting like the full thing, like just seems like such a awful place to be like as a fan, right? And then like when you think about it, right, like your more hardcore fans are the ones that are also trying to go to your concerts and buying your merch and buying, you know, trying to be there for you as a fan. So when you think about how this is actually, you know, not even giving them favorite songs, like versions. I think the Charlie XCSX had David Cronenberg doing a spoken word piece that was on the closing track that Variety called the heart of what the album is really about. But that's only on streaming. Like, how much are you missing out? Like, how much are your hardcore fans missing out on the full experience of what you intend in your album when you're not including all these bits and pieces on that, right?
Yeah, it takes advantage of a behavior that labels and also the fandom itself have instilled in individual fans. Fans have learned to act with immediacy. They've learned to act with urgency. It's, you know, from the fandom side, it's like, well, are you a true fan if you don't, you know, purchase
Yeah.
this extension, which, you know, as a person my old age, yes, you are. Like, even if you buy nothing,
Well,
you
but
are.
they tell you too, right? Like that it sounds different on the vinyl version versus the digital version,
Yeah,
right? So like they're trying to incentivize you to buy the like physical media copy, but then punishing you for it, right? And I think fans are starting to wisen up, right? I think part of what happened with Taylor Swift this last album is this, right? Like they're finally starting to be like, wait, why are you trying to get me to buy 7 different versions, and then trying to incentivize me to buy the next version, but then also have a digital copy? You know, like it's too much when she's a billionaire already, right? Like,
exactly.
I feel like some of these smaller artists, you know, haven't fully gotten to that point yet because, you know, they're not billionaires. So they're not getting that much from it. But, you know, the economy is not great for everybody right now. So, like, people are starting to pinch pennies, right? And we're starting to see that more in terms of concerts, right? Like, how many stars have had to cancel their concerts because, like, their fans just aren't buying tickets or not, they don't want to purchase $300 tickets for, you know, being a casual like listener. So,
There are
yeah.
like 2 tickets that are sitting in my Ticketmaster queue right now that I am so afraid that I'm just gonna eventually get the, "Sorry, we're canceling this," just because the blue ocean is real. People, like you said,
Yeah.
aren't able to meet that high price point anymore. Like, even now, it's like, you know, once this run of concerts is done, for me, that's it for a while. Like, it's
Mhm.
is becoming a very, very costly thing. And with vinyl in particular, we are talking about the most expensive
Mhm.
version of physical media. And as you said, it does feel like a little bit of a slight when all you're doing is sort of falling into the behavior that you were trained to fall into. Because, like, what do labels say? It's like, well, this is a limited run. We are only make 5 copies of this vinyl, and if you don't get your copy, then you've missed that. And, you know, how will you feel then? Whereas really, like, when you get to the reality of it, it's not so different that you necessarily need to have the vinyl unless you are making a concerted effort to build your collection. And a lot of young listeners are. A lot of young listeners are turning to this or becoming audiophiles because that is something that has been very popularized through social media and are, you know, wanting to build these collections. And the reality is, if you're wanting to build like a full, complete, like fully realized collection, you kind of have to take a little bit of a risk and maybe wait a month or 2 after a release when the artist decides to do another run. Like Tyler, the Creator, he had a few vinyls that were available at the start of Chromacopia. And then, like a few months later, he released a whole different set. It still sounded pretty much the same. It was just like probably concluded some previous tweaks. The reality of this that I think fans kind of have to take into account, and it's a harsh reality to learn, is that when we are being pitched a product, sometimes it feels like we're being pitched this product by our faves. Like, BTS needs me and wants me to get this vinyl. It is very important that I get this limited edition vinyl with Suga's face on it. They are not selling you the thing. Marketers are selling you the thing. Their chief concern is sales at the end of the day. Your user experience does factor into it a little bit because obviously a good user experience is the thing that keeps you coming back. But at the end of the day, it is really largely about making sure that those first week sales are pristine, and they are going to find different ways to incentivize you to buy this physical media in a world that doesn't require it. It is very easy to listen to free music, but vinyl and different merch opportunities are the things that pull you in. So when they offer you that limited edition run, yeah, there's there's a possibility that it's not going to be fully complete. And that's where that savvy marketing comes in because, well, you don't have an incomplete album. You have the very limited first version of this album. You have exclusive access to this artist's first draft of, their album, and this is something that's very intimate. And now if you get this other thing, then you'll have like the different version or the next version or the completed version that everyone else has. And I think that like what also gets lost in this is that marketers tend to rely on different levels of fandom. Like, fandom isn't uniform. Fandom consists of like your diehards, yes, but then there are your diehards that will insist that they need to buy everything because that's what it means to them to be a fan. So, like, for instance, you have with your Taylor Swift fans, you had a group of fans that were like, yeah, I shouldn't have to buy different versions of this thing just to have like a demo version of the song that I've heard 1,000 times. And then you have another, even more rabid group of fans that are like, man, it's a shame that I have to buy all this stuff.
Yeah.
And that's the fans that they are appealing to at the end of the day. Because if they don't
Yeah.
get everyone fine, they know that there is still a very lucrative fan base that is willing to buy whatever they need to get what they feel is the complete experience. And it's unfortunate for the fans that can't afford to do that because it is a little slimy. It is very much like you're
Yeah.
taking
I mean,
advantage.
I'm trying to think about what would happen if like my author, because I buy books. If my
Mhm.
author like came out with like, you have the hardcover book and you buy that. And then like, a month later, they've written a new version of like, they've changed the story. Like, I can't imagine that happening. Like, I would be
Girl,
so angry. So
in
like,
no other sphere does this work. Would you go to a
yeah.
baker, order a cake, and then expect to show up to said bakery to pick up cake, and they hand you a can of frosting and a Ziploc bag full of batter?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
No,
It's wild.
it's wild. I expected to buy a cake. Give me my cake. If I'm expecting
Yeah.
to buy
Yeah.
an album, please make sure that it is done at the
Hmm. Hmm.
bare
Yeah.
minimum.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. Like one thing I can see is so what with books, right? When you have like that special edition, it's like the 10-year anniversary, and then
Mhm.
they get like a new intro and like new content. Like that I understand because it's like a more of a memorabilia type thing for the book that you already know you love. So I've bought, several of those versions because I'm like, I
Sure,
love the book so much. I have the one that I read and I have the one that's like collectible.
exactly.
But this for me is like backwards. And I think they are gonna have to sort that out because ultimately you don't want to piss off your hardcore fans. Like that's just not,
Hey,
what you want to do in any terms of like fan base or marketing, because like your whole point is you want to incentivize those hardcore fans to continue being the hardcore fans, right? And this is backwards for me. So that's a thing here. It's like, how do you think about not punishing, but rewarding your hardcore fans. Like maybe there's a way where it's like you bought this first iteration, we will send you like the latest version at a later date once the artist
Right.
has already decided that. Like is that not a way to reward them? Maybe that's not every single time, but sometime is there a way that like maybe once they purchase a ticket to your concert, they're able to like get this new version because they purchased that? Like really thinking here on like tiers of like ways that you can reward those hardcore fans so that like you don't end up losing their money, not just because you are making them purchase more of like the thing that's like not set in stone, but because you want to incentivize them to purchase that original version, like you mentioned, right, where it's like these are my initial thoughts, this is how I had put together, it's a limited run for that, but here's like the latest version, and I want to reward you for having bought that first version by giving you the second version as well.
Exactly, and not to mention, like, Billie Eilish called out this behavior, like, years ago, where it's like, releasing all of these versions of vinyl is ultimately a wasted resource,
Hmm.
and it gets it does come into conflict with our society's growing interest in sustainability and
Hmm.
things like that. Like, it's making 8 different versions of one album and getting to a point where now you were oversaturating the market with all this stuff that a lot of which might not even sell at a certain point. It's like fans are like, I already have 3 versions of this one vinyl. Like I cannot take on a fourth.
Favors.
It's
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
you really have to consider what it means to meaningfully intentionally connect with fans at a certain point, and maybe it's not always throwing them 8 different versions of something or
Hmm.
making them buy something that is going to be outdated before it even hits their door. Like, maybe it is, like you said, having, the initial vinyl, maybe having it connect to, like, a special microsite that's, like, leads to all of these different fan experiences that are exclusive, giving people something that will feel special and not feel so, like, taken advantage of at the end of the day, because that's what this is sort of ebbing into or edging
Hmm.
into. It's like, you know that I love this thing, you know that it brings me joy, and now you are trying to bleed me dry. I understand that
Yeah.
everyone needs to make money, but for the love of God, like, I am just flesh and bone, and I make a modest amount of money. Please let these billionaires think of some other way to love me. Like, that doesn't require me to, like, shell out a ton of money. So, yeah, I think marketers need to sort of go back to the drawing board a little bit, like, get into why vinyl itself became so popular, what prestige kind of what kind of prestige kind of surrounded this medium, and get back to creating things that are befitting of that prestige and not just sort of schlocked together second and third drafts that don't even make the final cut.
Totally agree.